Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. Delighted that you have stopped by. This is the Wines of the World section. That's what we call the D3 for the WSET Level 4 Diploma. We are looking at South Africa here. South Africa is split into a multi-part series, as all of the countries of origin for wine are. We've got 8 series here, and we're on series 4, looking at the wine laws, regulations, and styles. This first video will be just looking at the major wine styles across South Africa. Part 2, the follow-on video, will go into wine law and regulation. That part will only be available to subscribers of my e-learning portal. That's over at winewithjimmy.com. You'll see it at the bottom of every slide. If you have any comments or questions or concerns, you can get in touch by commenting on this video below down there. We like to hear about your comments, and we'd love to hear if you have been to South Africa, if you have experienced something wonderful out there, maybe gastronomically, wine-wise, culturally, whatever. Please do get in touch. So we're going to look at wine styles here. Not a large presentation, but nonetheless some important stuff to go through. Now, most regions in this wonderful country of South Africa grow what is called the Big Six. So it sounds like something you might hear at some sort of casino, but we mean the Big Six varieties. So Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, and Chardonnay for the whites, and then for the reds, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz or Syrah, and Pinotage. Now, the Big Six don't include Colombard or the variety Pinot Noir. Now, Colombard is certainly in volume, as you can see by the chart, one of the big producers, but a lot of it goes into the production of South African brandy, so in distillation, but it is becoming more important. And Pinot Noir is not large enough in volume to be included in this chart, only accounting for just less than 2% of the total production. So it'll be way off this chart. Now, for these varieties, both single varietal wines and blends are made across all of the regions. And there is some variation in the percentages of these varieties in different regions, but broadly speaking, they are quite common to be found in all of the regions. Now, first of all, what do we find for the styles? And of course, the first thing to mention is that South Africa, like any country in the world, has a focus on varietal wines. And what we mean by that is that one variety makes a wine. So you'll see here the fantastic wine Nat Valley made by Alex. This is the Darling, that's the wine of origin, Darling Sanso, single varietal Sanso. So these wines are often made from one grape only, therefore representing that grape from its microclimate and terroir. And this is what's making it quite fascinating with South African wines, especially things like Chenin Blanc, for example, which are being made in a variety of locations, but only showcasing Chenin Blanc. So that's quite typical, of course. But something that the business was really made upon, certainly during the 20th century, is the larger voluminous productions of the Cape blends, both white and red. So you'll see here the white Cape blend in a box, the South African Bay Cape White. Now, typically these are Chenin dominant blends, but sometimes you'll have added in Rhône varietals, Chardonnay, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, for example, as well. So often you find a multi-blend. A very common blend is Chenin, Chardonnay, and Colombard, the 3 C's of the Cape, we could call it. And our Cape Red blends. This is a broader church for blends with a significant proportion of Pinotage and or the Rhône varietals. So you might find Pinotage and Syrah, and sometimes Pinotage, Syrah, Cabernet. Sometimes you might just find Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, the kind of Rhône varietals being used in our Cape Red blends. Typically, the ones that are just focusing on the Rhône blends have a notch of more premium air to them, whereas Pinotage-based blends, certainly blended with things like Cabernets and Shiraz, will tend to be a little bit more mass production. And then we have Bordeaux blends, our majorly red Bordeaux blends, but there are some white Bordeaux blends made as well. Now, red Bordeaux blends are something really which took off with Cabernet's success in the sort of 1970s and 1980s. And then Merlot joins the wagon in 1990. Mirlust Rubicon is one of these. This is a typical blend between Cabernet Sauvignon, often about 60%, Merlot, often just over 20%, Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot. And that is a very similar blend that you'll find on the left bank in Bordeaux in France. And there often are similar sort of patterns in terms of the winemaking and aging in oak barrels for 1 to 2 years, typically with a large percentage new oak. The Rubicon typically is about 2/3 new oak, for example. Now, of course, there are other styles, but not covered in this still section. So there are styles like brandies and sparkling wines. You'll also find dessert wines being crafted as well through botrytis, typically things like Muscat, though Chenin Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc, and even a little bit of Riesling as well. Please do join me for part 2 on wine laws and regulation. This will only be available to those of you who subscribe for the South Africa section on the Wine with Jimmy e-learning portal. Please visit there now. So many reasons why you should subscribe. All of the exclusive video content, flashcards, map questions, written questions, lots of things to help you with your studies. So that's me for this session. If you do have any questions, drop us an email, info@winewithjimmy.com. And if you're in the United Kingdom, please come and say hi for a class, a glass, or a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao.